past 2 weeks, or 1 week, I guess.
Holy shit, Kevin!
Wow! What?
You get this only nowhere else but you, Kevin and Zach. Kevin, I'm not gonna lie.
Now look at this. A carved penguin. There it is.
Oh no. Are the O's fine? Are the Orioles fine, Kevin?
I think I was so embarrassed.
Okay.
The Orioles stole it. That game was stolen. It was stolen from them, then they stole it right back.
What?
Oh my god.
Wait, what's going on? What is happening?
What is going? Was it a diving play? He bobbled the ball.
What is happening? Are they challenging it? No. Other wall. No.
Kevin, I don't know what you saw, how much you saw. I've been chugging champagne. Sure, I spilled a lot, but what a game, man.
He will be the legendary
Birdfish!
How about that?
Birdfish fans, stand up. We did it.
What can I say? What can I say? It is time to talk trades. Wasn't expecting to do it this early, if we're being honest, and not this early in the morning, if you know my work schedule, but here we are. The Orioles have traded Bryan Baker to the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for a competitive balance pick. It's going to be number 37 overall here with the draft, obviously. Yeah, the draft's pretty close. It's pretty close. So the notion here is getting another pick. We'll talk about whether I agree or disagree with that. Talk about Baker himself, if he could have contributed to years beyond, if this was a good return. Man, honestly, trade talk, speculation. Well, now it's not speculation, but, kind of moves like this are some of my favorite things to talk about. So, going to dive into it. I know the Orioles are also, tip it off right now. So, game one of a doubleheader. Zach and I will be back later after game two. We're not going to do two separate reactions. We'll just do one after both games, but you still get two reactions today. It's funny how that works. Zach is, I don't know where Zach is. And, he texted me that, when I was able to make the stream and get it going. So I sent him the link. Maybe he'll pop in here. But for now, it'll just be me rocking out with you. Bryan Baker. So it's officially official. He's gone again to Tampa Bay. Initial thoughts here is it is early. And, Mike Elias spoke and said that they were not actively shopping him. Zach, I definitely, you know what? The link is in my text box. I just didn't hit enter on it. It's my bad, Zach. So Zach will be here in a second. I was gatekeeping him from the stream without knowing I was doing it, man. I have gatekeeping, gaslighting, uncanny abilities over here. But Elias said they weren't actively shopping Baker. The Rays were very aggressive and direct in their pursuit. It is shocking. Now, I look at it two ways. And Zach, I'll bring you on the screen for this. Zach, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I want to make one quick point here before I get your initial thoughts. I'll put you behind the screen. There are two ways you can look at this. Bryan Baker was having a career year. He really, found himself outside of a couple of rough outings. Still a home run heavy guy, but he was able to develop some pitches and add some things, and he's been one of their best relievers all year. Yes, his bad outings have been bad, but you still liked what you saw from Baker over the course of the full season. I get it hasn't been perfect, and getting a essentially first/second round pick for that is not a terrible return in my opinion. But this is the conversation that we have been having, Zach, about how the Orioles should maneuver around this trade deadline, given that, and Mike Elias reiterated this, they are not going through, as it appears, another rebuild here. And so getting a draft pick, which is not going to contribute to your ball club until, in the 37th pick, it's not like this is a top 5 guy, like, oh, Jackson will be up in 2 years, or Cowser will be up in 2.5, or I think, to me, you have to assume whoever this player is at 37 is probably not going to be up for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years, whereas you're trying to compete next season and the year after that. And so you would think that a guy with 3 years of team control left, if they had waited a little longer, would they have been able to get more? I'm not sure. I'm not sure the answer to that question, but I think they could have gotten more MLB-ready players for him. What's your initial thoughts on the return, Zach, and the fact that they actually pulled the trigger on this deal here on July 10th instead of waiting to see if maybe they could have gotten more?
Yeah, I think, I'm going to be honest, I don't think they were shopping Baker. I don't think that they were shopping Bryan Baker. I think the Tampa Bay Rays came to them and they offered the 37th overall pick in this draft, a deal that obviously isn't there in even 5 days because the draft is Sunday. So I think it put pressure on the Orioles to be like, okay, we think this is the best we could get for the 30th pick. Not only do they now have 4 picks in the top 37, they got I believe it's $2.6 million in slot money. So the Orioles now have the most slot bonus pool in all of baseball, with just above 18 million, I believe. So there are those benefits. 3 years left on his deal. It makes it more, I think we all thought it was going to be more the Sotos, the Seranthonys, the guys on expiring deals. I think we all kind of thought that was going to be the memo for guys heading out. But Bryan Baker, there's 2 ways to, like you were saying, Kevin, there's a few ways to look at it. I don't think this is them balking on 2026. I think this is them seeing that they are getting great value for a guy that has had flashes and has put together a good season, but for the most part has put together 3 good months for his career. Now, do I think Tampa is going to turn Bryan Baker into a very sustainable, impressive reliever? 1,000%, because that's what Tampa Bay does. That's their forte, their MO. But I don't hate this trade. I don't think it signals that the Orioles are fire sailing everyone. I don't think they're giving up on 2026 with this move. I think Bryan Baker, like Kevin, I also have to look at it this way. If you would have told me before this season that the Orioles were going to get the 37th pick in the draft for Bryan Baker, we would all be like, what? Like, what kind of drugs are the Tampa Bay Rays smoking? Like, what do you mean they're giving up a first-round pick? I think it's a good deal for both sides. I think Tampa can get a lot out of it. And Baker also doesn't have options. And we know how the Orioles love having guys. So that's 3 years that he has to be on that team no matter what. No flexibility to even send him down, even if he's just tired. We want to make room. If you ever have to move off him and you're DFAing him and getting nothing for him. So am I upset at the deal? No. Was I shocked by the deal? 1,000%. I didn't think we were going to trade Bryan Baker, your best reliever with multiple years, but it's a deal that I think makes sense for the Orioles. I know people aren't happy with it. I know it's that we're selling good players now for down the line. I think the value with Kevin is too good. But Kevin, what do we say all the time about draft picks and getting prospects and all this? We won't know who won this trade for probably 4 or 5 years. Like, that's the fact. Like, this isn't a superstar for superstar when a year in, or MLB player for MLB player where a year or 2 in, you're like, okay, this guy helped us do this. This guy helped us. Wow, Charlie Morton got out of that. Holy crap. Holy crap. Good for him. I thought we were about to be down like 4-0 in the first, but 0-0. I'll take it. I think this is a win-win for both sides, but we won't know for a very long time. You have to hit on draft picks. You have 4 picks in the top 37. You better hit on them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a fine deal. You know, I'm not upset with it. I'm not saying it's the best deal that the Orioles have ever made. It is fine to me. And there's a question, and you're right. Like, if there was a place to go for Baker to kind of hit that final form, it probably is Tampa. I think that
It's
pitching,
inevitable.
that development program will be great for him, especially with what he's already tinkered with and added and figured out. So, you know, the worst case scenario here is that they actually do get to that final form and the Orioles have to see him for the next 3 years. And, you know, that's a whole different conversation. But there is also the question of, has Bryan Baker reached his final form? Like, is this the version of Bryan Baker that he is? You know, it almost reminds me, it's not exactly the same thing, but I guess you can draw a little bit of similarities to it. And the return was different. But the Jorge Lopez deal was selling high on Jorge Lopez, right? And everybody was thinking, man, Jorge's going to be great, and this is Jorge, and all this, you know, yada, yada, yada. And it turned out to be a flop where the Orioles Jorge that year before he got traded was the best version of Jorge Lopez. And so it's similar to me in terms of, like, you're taking that risk again. Like, there was a shot Jorge would have been great for Minnesota, and that would have worked out for him, but it didn't. There's always that risk that you take. But on the flip side of it, there is he's had a great 3 months. Is this the best ball that Bryan Baker will play in his career? That's the big question. So go ahead.
If you're the Orioles, I was gonna say real fast, if you're the Orioles, you're kind of banking on it. You know, you hate to root against the guy, but if you're the Orioles, you're like, we hope this is it. You know, we hope it's still this inconsistent guy that we've all come to know and love as Bryan Baker. But you can't take away one. It's another good dude that's leaving the building. Everyone has had nothing but great things to say about Bryan Baker, the person. You got to replace that. You have to now replace another. You know, Kevin, let's talk about now the here and now. We've talked about, yes, maybe you win value-wise down the line. That was probably behind Felix Bautista, maybe Sir Anthony Dominguez, your most reliable reliever this season. Yeah, it wasn't pretty the last time he was out. You know, it wasn't great the last time he was out there, but he was one of the more reliable guys you had this season. So you now need to replace him, you know, that production. And for a team that, Kevin, I mean, we talk about feels like they can't stay out of their way when they have opportunities to really go on a run and then you lose 6-2 or you blow a 6-2 lead and lose. It's just, I think that's what fans are a little upset about, but I'm very hard pressed to like be upset about this. I just can't. I keep going back to Kevin. I know I said it before. I keep going back to, if you would have told us in March that we got the 37th pick in the draft for Bryan Baker, I think, hell, if you would have told us 2 months ago we got it for a month ago, like, I think this is a good sell high point. Maybe he goes on with the Rays to become an absolute star. Very well likely could with the way that they develop arms. But I am, I'm hyped.
I mean, the risk is there for both sides. I would have wished that they could have gotten someone or a couple of guys like in the Jorge Lopez deal that, you know, or could have been a little bit more MLB ready for the next couple of years, but I still think it is good value. It is just value in a different way. Now, I don't think that they should be trading, you know, for guys that are 4 to 5 years out, but I think that you still have the opportunity to move off of guys like O'Hearn and Mullins and, you know, whoever else to get guys who are more MLB ready. If you had a deal or two like this where you're getting, you know, value for picks or whatnot, because again, I don't want to necessarily judge the entire Orioles trade deadline or trade haul when we don't have it yet. So you can look at each individual deal in a vacuum individually and say, man, the Orioles, they're going to try to compete in 2026. Man, the 37th pick in the draft does not help you compete in 2026. Like, there is that aspect of it, but I also want to see, can they move off of O'Hearn for someone who helps them next year? Can they move off of Mullins or anybody else for someone that helps them? And then they also get the 37th pick in their entire haul. So, look, there was always a possibility that Baker was going to be a piece to help them moving forward, especially if this version of him, and honestly, hopefully a step up, that was the hope, right, as he continued to improve and get better. But you're right, where he was out of options, and it just felt like they were in a squeeze with who they could send down and who they couldn't. That doesn't mean you just move off of a guy to move off of a guy, but they clearly felt that the value was good enough for them to make that deal. And we'll see what happens. So
yeah, and I love that point you made, Kevin, about you can't look at the whole deadline right now. We don't know what's going to happen. The Orioles could, if they move off Seti, O'Hearn, Charlie Morton, if the week keeps pitching the way he is, I think he gets moved without a doubt. You start getting, if you can get some guys that are in AAA that are, can help in the next year, and then you add on to all of the hauls that you got, that you gave up Bryan Baker for the 37th pick, and let's just say at pick 37, a guy falls and people are like, damn, what a great get by the Orioles at pick 37. Now we won't know if he pans out that way, but in a whole month, we could be talking like this is the best trade ever. If Bryan Baker doesn't do well, whatever it is, I think it's one of those situations where I love how you put it. We can't judge the whole deadline off of the first move. We can't. Last year, we were very excited the first move with Zach Eflin, and then we got the Trevor Rogers trade, and we were less happy about it.
Right. You can't judge it now, but I do hope that the Orioles are able to get more MLB ready guys here, especially with the messaging that Mike Elias said. I mean, yes, you can't just have, all right, we're going to get all these high A guys and we're going to be good in 2026 while moving off of guys that, like O'Hearn could help them win next year, theoretically. Mullins could help them win next year, theoretically. You don't just want to say, all right, here's a bunch of 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds. That doesn't help you. So it's okay to have some deals like that, right? I would probably say one more for a lesser piece. You can do that. But for your bigger time guys that you're going to hopefully get bigger returns for, I would want guys who are ready or have already had experience in those deals. And now it's easier to say that than actually go out there and do it because, you have to find very unique situations. But I think it is a win-win where, Tampa's obviously competing. Baker can help them, especially if they can unlock something here. And it doesn't even have to be this year. I mean, they have a lot of time to work with them now, so we'll see. But while Baker technically did fit Baltimore's plans and he could have helped them and he was pitching pretty much lights out, except when he was bad, which is just imploded. When he was bad, it was awful. But, he gave you a lot this year. And I mean, Zach, this is a guy that we were talking about as like the most hated guy in that bullpen last year. Like, people like Baker was not someone that like he was one of those guys that came out and you're like, great, game over the last year and the last.
You saw that Rock Kabako. You saw the Rock Kabako tweet of Bryan Baker's entering the game and you took it as a threat. Like that's how bad it was. And then this year when he was coming in, you're like, oh, thank God. Here comes Bryan Baker to get us out of it.
He did a lot to, reshape that this year. And, I'll miss about Bryan Baker. I mean, the electric, just him being electric on the mound, wearing his emotions on his sleeve, getting pumped up and, trying to fight guys. I mean, that is Bryan Baker. And I mean, it gave you energy. The team fed off of it in moments as well. Like, that's something I'm going to miss because, there are pitchers that do that. Everybody has their unique thing to know with the stance and to stare down. And, you can talk about everybody with their own unique thing. But, it fires me up when guys get fired up like that. And so, you wish the best of luck to him in Tampa unless he plays the Orioles, right? Yeah. So.
I agree. It's not just the guy, the numbers that you're losing. You're losing the fire. You're losing that edge that Bryan Baker was. It was clear that he was shocked. I mean, he was getting asked by reporters, and he was like, "Yeah, I did not see this coming at all." He was just I think he let reporters know. I think he was like, "Hey," started hugging everyone. And people were like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I just got traded to Tampa." You're like, "What?" So. Happened really fast, which honestly makes me feel like this all came to fruition really fast. I do believe that this was Tampa offered the 37th pick, and the Orioles thought that was something they couldn't refuse for Bryan Baker. And with the draft being in 5 days, this isn't Kevin. We talk about sometimes waiting till midnight, last second, right before the clock strikes at the deadline, that that can get you the best value. Obviously, that 37th round overall pick's not going to be there in 4 weeks or 3 weeks. Draft is on Sunday, so I do think it is something where they were like, "Listen, this is the best chance we have to get value," and I think they liked it enough to pull the trigger now. So, Kevin, somebody set a timer. You can have like Google set a timer to remind you in like a few years. Somebody set a timer for 5 years to remind us on this day to look back and say who won the trade.
That's how long it's going to take. I mean, again, unless you get like that Gunnar Henderson at 37.
Yeah,
and I know
you grab if they get a college bat who is, comes up to the pros in a year and a half, he's sitting there in 2027 helping the team, then you can, it's whatever. But can I say something that kind of got me mad? They asked Mike Elias if there was if he was going to be drafting, if it was safe to say that he'd be drafting a pitcher with one of the first 4 picks. He's like, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. If we don't get 2, like you have 4 picks in the top 37, get 2 college pitchers that we can try to see if they fly through the system. Like, give us something there. If we don't pick a single pitcher with the first 4 picks, Kevin, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, let's give up. Give up a pitcher and then let's draft 4 outfielders again.
you know that we're getting at least 3 left-handed outfielders and 1 middle infielder. It's happening. It's written in the story.
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to resist. I really, Joe will be happy about it. I really think we're getting Aloy from Arkansas, that shortstop at number 19. He's been mocked there so much, and it just is the prototypical college bat. He's a middle infielder, so they think that they're like, okay, we can put him anywhere. And I just feel like it's almost, if he's there, I don't see them not taking the Golden Spikes award winner.
It's possible. Just, you got to get pitchers, please.
Yeah. I see Mario Power talking about Gage Wooden. That is the one guy that I'm pounding the table for, and I don't think there's any possibility because I don't think the Orioles, we've talked now to Jim Callis and why am I blanking on the other guy? Sorry, but MLB Pipeline and Baseball America.
Oh, Keith Law.
Keith Law. I was about to say Ty Law, and I knew that was just not it. I was like very different person. They both said that. We were like, okay, can you see the Orioles drafting a pitcher in this, the first few picks? And they were all like, yeah, definitely not at 19. Like, that's not what Mike Elias does. He has made that very, very clear, that he's been burned too many times. When he was with Houston, they had 2 top picks. I think both of them were number 1 overall picks. Both pitchers. Barely made it to the pros. Like, just, it happened. So I think he's been burned too many times. I think I just don't see them getting a pitcher there, but maybe I hope I'm wrong. If Gage Wood is an Oriole, I'll be chugging champagne on stream. That's how we'll celebrate. Unfortunately, I just see no way that they unfortunately take a college arm, pick 1, as much as I would love for them to. Yeah, and then actually, saying that's actually someone that Callis brought up yesterday with pick 31. He thinks that
Forbes
from Louisville. He said that's a guy that he thinks everyone should look out for Baltimore. I would love it. Get us a pitcher. Just bring us some pitchers. I want to be able, Kevin, to look at the Orioles' top 30 prospects, and the top 10 are split pretty much 6-4 or 5-5 for pitchers hitters. I'm tired of the top 8 prospects for the Orioles are all left-handed outfielders. It's like that's not helping us right now.
They have enough.
We can only platoon. That means we have to go sign a bunch of Tyler O'Neills to hit against the lefties.
Man, did they try to Tyler O'Neill for the 37th pick?
Oh my God! This place would be. There would be.
Yeah, there would actually be champagne. Yeah. Man, so what do you think is next? I mean, Elias with a pretty telling answer that it, could look the way that they are going to look ahead to 2026. I mean, I think everybody knows that's the case anyway, but to hear it from the man himself, kind of signals something, and you see this trade happen. So I don't know if they make another deal like before the deadline. I think that, especially with Elias saying that it was earlier than they were planning on doing anything,
Yeah.
I don't expect something like this to happen before the deadline. But I mean,
a week beforehand, then we'll start talking again. I think that's just the
Yeah.
classic. This was one of those random moves that everyone's like, oh shit, and the trade deadline starts. And I don't think the Orioles make another move till it gets closer. It's a seller's market. They have all the leverage. I think that's why Tampa was probably so, I guess, felt compelled to make that big of an offer for Bryan Baker, But Kevin, what do you want to talk about? Tell him that's now. You want your bar? You want the standard now? Bryan Baker just fetched you the 37th pick. You trade Seranthony Dominguez, you trade Gregory Soto. You've got to come with something good because we've already seen Bryan Baker. So you remember last year, everything was good, and with Eflin, all that. Then all of a sudden, Kikuchi gets traded for a haul, and every other starting pitcher, it just flies up. Maybe this could do the same, where now suddenly the price has been set.
Yeah, it could. And, if the Orioles are going to, move off of their relievers and they set that themselves, maybe it's a big brain play.
Yeah.
There's going to be more value to be had because of that. So we'll see. I mean, do you think now with this, is it they're going to trade both O'Hearn and Mullins? Do you still think it's just going to be one? I mean,
I think they're still going to play. They're going to still see value. What you got?
I was going to say that, they can still help next year, but you could just try to move off.
But I mean, you got to sign them for next year. If you do not trade them, you gotta sign them to an extension. The worst thing you can do is, I guess not the worst thing, but because O'Hearn may get you into that Anthony Santander territory where maybe he gets you a comp pick, but that's why I think Mullins trade probably makes the most sense, because then you can either trade or extend O'Hearn for a year or two, or you probably get a comp pick, but I'm not sure if Seti signs a big enough deal to get a comp pick. It all depends. So I think they still make a few trades. I don't think this is going to be a sell-all. I don't think this is going to be this team is a shell of itself in a month. I think we probably see three more major leaguers. I think Charlie Morton, I would bet so much money Charlie Morton's all but gone. I think Gregory Soto as a lefty, throwing back-end bullpen guy, I think he gets moved. And then probably like Cedric Mullins or Ryan O'Hearn, one of the two. So I think we probably see 3-4 more guys moved. I don't think it's going to be the 7-8 that some people have said, where you're pretty much you're getting rid of Laureano, you're getting rid of Sagano, Eflin, all that. Obviously, with Eflin hurt, it puts a damper. That's not happening, but and they can't trade Gary anymore, which is So I don't think it's going to be as big of a sell-all as some people think, but I do think we still see 3 to 4 more guys go. And who knows? Maybe we see some prospects go for a guy that they think can help now and long-term.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say buckle up. I mean, at least hopefully, I hope that there is some movement here. Don't just trade somebody to trade somebody, get actual value, but we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens, but Kevin, anything else? Just a quick stream.
Yeah, just a little quick stream. We won't do call-ins for trade streams. That's only for post-game. So I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, the Orioles are playing right now, so I mean, hopefully they can string off a couple wins here. But I already mentioned
we'll be back after game 2.
Yeah. I mean, they're two reaction streams anyway. I mean,
yeah. Look at that. Look at that, Kevin. Although, Kevin, I will say this is on me because after it got postponed yesterday, I was like, wow, we're going to go so many, we're not going to have that many streams left. I was like, we only have 4 left. And then we have the All-Star breaks, all that stuff. And I was like, wow, they're finding new ways to get streams in. I know. I sold Bryan Baker. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Man. Wow, that's crazy. We're not going to have that many streams left. Otani for O'Hearn. Wow, Dodgers should be sellers. I mean, let's just do it again. Let's just do it again.
Yeah,
So.
let's do it. But yeah, appreciate everyone who tuned in. Yeah, Kevin, if you want to do a sign off.
Yeah. Appreciate it. We're going to be back here later today after game 2, like Zach said. So, you want to check back in after the games. Maybe the mood will be different. Maybe the mood will be better. Maybe it'll be worse. I don't know. But we will see how the Orioles fare today against the Mets. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all Zach got. So we'll be back here later. Bryan Baker.
Oh, God damn it. God damn it. You knew I was going to. Whoever the hell we pick with 37.
Yeah, competitive balance pick number 37 is your Orioles.
There it is.